Next item is more current, also dealing with finance. I'm not sure what we're on now, but it's late. I could have made this quite a bit longer, but I'm aware that a lot of it, some of it's technical, some of it's, a lot of you who are here who don't actually, this is your first event, so you won't know a lot of the stuff that goes on within UHISA. So I'm not expecting you to have lots of, or you can either have lots of questions, or you might not have any questions, depending on your interest. But if you do have any questions, fire away. The thing I should note is that student council has not yet been deducted from this spreadsheet here. So therefore, there's a quite large amount, about 400 odd pounds for dinner last night, cost of your accommodations, your travel, all that will be deducted from what you're seeing here. So I'm really, those costs were, I can only really, I wrote the report a few days back, so I couldn't calculate those costs in until yesterday, actually, as it is. So this is slightly behind the times. Yes. Any questions? You're looking at me. You have questions.
Me.
Yes, you.
Me.
You got that. You got this.
I was just looking at a couple of rather funny typos. Page 80. Oh, the situation needs to be asses after the total cost.
Where's that one? I think we should leave that one in.
And better one on page 81. This includes travel accommodation and all related expenses incurred on the handover day. Again, maybe a slight typo.
I'm on the right one. I think I'm on the right one. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
That's well. It could have been worse.
In terms of the actual content, I did have a question, but obviously sabbatical hosting fees is down as being £8,000. I can imagine that could be reviewed.
I should mention that. Sabbatical hosting fees have been something because, well, Kat has just stepped down. So therefore, arguably, well, we've already paid the hosting fee to Inverness College. We might have room to negotiate some of that back, although we only got one office, so I'm still using the office. We'll see where I can get with that. I don't know how successful I'll be yet. Hosting at Murray will be negotiated. Hosting at Sam's will be negotiated. Rachel still hasn't gotten into her office, and I'm not terribly keen on paying them everything. You have a temporary office.
I have my final office.
The hosting fees will probably are under review and will be negotiated with the colleges. Because they're not necessarily living up to certain expectations, or people are no longer actually requiring that space. They will be given either a pro rate or something slightly higher for the amount of time that space was in use, depending on how well we can work with them, and come to a mutually agreeable conclusion. But hopefully that number will be cut down a bit. You also notice it's a bit funny because there's it says 33333. That's because about £777 were deducted from last year's budget to cover this year's hosting fees. It's a very complicated thing with end-of-year adjustments, so it looks a bit funny on there. But that's because a fraction of the hosting fee was actually paid last year, out of last year's budget. And there's a few other unusual things like that in the budget that were paid last year. There's one figure that shows a negative spend, which is because that expected spend was not actually carried forward from last year. So there's a few unusual things in there that you kind of go, why is that? Unless you know that it's because of the rollover period, where some things went through before the end of the financial year, which is 1st of August is the start of the financial year, and that's kind of where some of these odd-looking things come from. If you have any particular questions about them, I can answer them in detail, but not right now. Pin me down sometime later or drop me an email with a specific question, and I'll certainly be happy to answer. Do we have any other questions? General questions, specific questions? I can't take too many because we're running out of time.
Quick question.
Yep.
Total approved budget of 141,000 and change.
Yes.
But also we're not that registered. I know that there's an item to be discussed about a board of trustees. I wasn't clear from that if that was also going to talk about becoming registered as a charity, or if not, is somebody looking at the VAT registration? Is it worth registering even for a flat rate VAT?
We haven't looked into this in the past. I think this is because of the size of our turnover. However, now that our turnover has increased, it may be wise to look into that, and I'd have to check with finance department and think they would be able to give us whether it would be advantageous to be registered, because previously it wasn't advantageous to us to be registered. But now that our income has increased, it might be so. Yeah. So I will look into that one that you raised that point.
Okay.
And see if that's advantageous, and I will take that to an executive meeting in the future as soon as I see what they have to say. Thanks, Joe. Anyone else? Scotty again. Last one, please. We need to move on. You're missing your lunch break, your tea break.
Yeah, I know. 5,007 is affiliation fees. National Union of Students is £7.5 They do an amazing job, and we obviously need them, and we're starting to use it, and we're getting benefit from our affiliation there. For British University and College Sport and Scottish Student Sport, again, substantial amounts of money. What are we doing to take the benefit out of that?
I think Kat can better answer this one, actually.
Yep. Should I sit here or should I run up? Which would you prefer? I'll just sit here. Yeah, true. Yeah, so with those two affiliations, they're not ones we get as much use of as NUS, but I don't think they're invaluable, and I still think we should continue to pay them. Within our clubs, we have golf, which competes, and they do very, very well, and I think it would be quite cruel to take that away from them. They bring a lot of reputation to the university. They came second overall in the Bucks Championships last year. I think they're probably set to achieve something better. Let's go for first place, guys. No pressure. We also have a lot of individual athletes that compete within the university that don't get as much credit. And one of the things I forgot in my report is that we have been trying to chat about how we make those students more well known and celebrate what they do for us. So we have students who have. Last year we had a student doing an HNC who competed against Jessica Ennis. And we have a swimmer who is getting ready for, is it the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics, or probably both, really. We have outstanding athletes who compete in these competitions that haven't been celebrated, but are definitely there and are definitely deserving of the opportunities that we give them. And we've also been working on how we develop the sports within UHI to become more competing. And I know the cycling club definitely has intentions to compete in these leagues and also outside leagues as well. So I think they're definitely valuable affiliations. Maybe not so in the past, but definitely growing and definitely deserving of their affiliation fee. And we also chatted with SSS about sports development, and they're very keen to reinvest some of our funds in us if we put in a good enough argument for it. So yeah, it's money well spent in my eyes. I obviously say this as someone who did an HNC in sports coaching and development, but I'm sure that you'll agree that it's quite good to have. So.
Does that answer your question, Scotty? Anything else? Because we really need to crack on. Not that I'm trying to rush you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to get in contact.